So let's talk about a huge shift happening in global politics. It's all about America's relationship with its allies. You know that bedrock of international stability? Well, it's changing. The big question is the era of that predictable, rock-solid partnership over? And if it is, what on earth comes next?
But before we get into all that, let's just take a step back and ask a really basic question. What actually makes a country a true ally? Is it just about having a shared history, similar values, or is there something deeper going on? Something built on trust and, a real willingness to have each other's backs? Keep that question in mind as we go. All right, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to look at the absolute foundation of any strong alliance. Then, we'll dive into America's recent turn towards, going it alone. This leads us to a pretty critical question. Is the U.S. now an ally or more of a competitor? And finally, we'll explore how other countries might just survive in this brand new era.
So, let's start at the beginning. To really get why things are changing, we first have to agree on what holds an alliance together in the first place. And at its core, any strong partnership, any real alliance, is built on this one key idea, what's called the mutual benefit mindset.
So, what is that exactly? Well, put simply, it's when you and your partners are willing to give a little to get a lot. You make some small sacrifices here and there because you trust that it's going to lead to a much bigger win for everyone down the line. It's not a zero-sum game. It's about making the entire pie bigger for everybody.
And why is this so absolutely critical? Well, because without it, trust just evaporates. The whole thing falls apart. This mindset is what lets you believe your partner has your back. It gets rid of that nagging fear that you're just going to be thrown under the bus for someone else's short-term gain. And that trust, that's what creates the stability our world really relies on.
Okay, so that brings us right to the heart of the matter today. The central argument we're exploring is that the U.S. has been steadily moving away from this very mindset, pivoting pretty hard toward a more unilateral, America-first way of doing things. And this quote from our source material, wow, it just captures the shift perfectly. The argument is that recent U.S. policy sends this incredibly clear message. America is now all about maximizing its own profit, instead of sharing both the burdens and the benefits of being a global leader.
So where's the proof? How did this actually play out in the real world? Well, the source material points to three very, very clear signals that were sent out to allies and enemies alike. Let's break them down.
First up, pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord. No, this wasn't just about environmental policy. Globally, this was seen as a huge statement. It said that when a common global interest, like, say, the future of the planet, clashes with short-term American economic goals, the domestic goals are going to win, every time. The second signal was hitting allies with tariffs. Not adversaries, but longtime partners. All of a sudden, countries like Canada, Japan, and members of the EU weren't being treated like partners anymore. They were basically seen as transactional pieces on a chessboard. They are to be pressured into a better deal for the U.S. And signal number 3, demanding that allies get in line with U.S. strategic goals. This meant asking partners to make huge economic sacrifices, like banning certain technologies, but without the U.S. offering to share that burden or pay for the losses. The dynamic became, we set the course, you pay the price. Now, it's really tempting to look at all this and pin it on one leader or one administration. But the argument we're exploring today suggests this is actually a much deeper, more structural trend in American foreign policy. So let's compare how two very different administrations have handled this. This table really lays it out. On one hand, you had the Trump administration, which was very openly America first, very unilateral. On the other hand, you have the Biden administration, which rejoined international deals and talked a lot about cooperation. But, and this is the key insight from the source, despite the totally different styles, that underlying pressure for allies to fall in line with American economic and strategic interests, it's still there. This suggests the shift goes way deeper than just one president's policies. So what does this all add up to? What's the bottom line? Well, this huge shift forces everyone to ask a tough question and redefine the very meaning of ally. Because if that foundational mindset of mutual benefit is gone, then the whole relationship has to be looked at in a new light. And this comparison just makes it crystal clear. Over on the left, you've got a real ally relationship. It's built on things like trust, long-term commitment, a shared vision for the future. Then look at the right, a transactional partner. That's all about short-term calculations, leverage, pressure. This isn't just a minor tweak. It's a complete gut renovation of the relationship.
Okay, so if the rules of the game have fundamentally changed, you can't keep playing with the old playbook, right? The players have to change their strategy. This brings us to our final section. How can other nations even begin to navigate this new world and find a path forward? The first, and maybe the most important step, according to this analysis, is actually a psychological one. It's about mindset. Nations have to abandon the illusion, the comfortable belief that the old alliance still exists the way it used to. It's time to take off the rose-colored glasses and get real. And this new reality? It demands a whole new playbook. It means seeing the U.S. as a transactional partner you do business with, not an old friend you trust without question. It means you start assessing risks as if they could come from a competitor. And maybe most importantly, it means building up your own strategic autonomy, diversifying your partnerships so that no one single country holds all the cards. This quote from the source really gets to the heart of this new perspective, and it is a stark one. The argument is that in this new transactional world, the U.S. doesn't necessarily want strong independent allies. It wants allies that it can benefit from. And understanding that cold, hard calculation is, according to this view, the absolute key to survival. So when you boil it all down, what's the ultimate takeaway for nations trying to find their footing in this new world? It really comes down to this simple, powerful mantra: collaborate where it makes sense, but never, ever become dependent. Communicate openly, but never, ever follow blindly. And that really leaves us with one final question to chew on, and it's for everyone, whether you're a world leader or just watching this all unfold. When the fundamental rules of the global game have been completely rewritten, are you and is your country ready to change your position on the board?